Hey everyone, welcome back. 6 clear signs. She's emotionally attached to you, the stoicism of mind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. But what happens when someone else's thoughts become intertwined with yours? When their emotional world begins to orbit around your presence? If you've ever wondered whether that special someone in your life has developed deep emotional feelings for you, today's video will give you the clarity you've been seeking. But we're not just talking about surface-level attraction here. We're diving deep into the psychology of emotional attachment through the lens of ancient Stoic wisdom. Before we begin, I want you to think about someone in your life right now. Got them in mind? Good. By the end of this video, you'll have a completely new understanding of their behavior and what it really means. So make sure you watch until the very end, because sign number 8 is the most powerful indicator of all, and it's something most people completely miss. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel where we blend ancient wisdom with modern relationships. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because we're building a community of thoughtful individuals who want to understand the deeper aspects of human connection. Now, you might be wondering why we're approaching this topic through Stoicism. The ancient Stoics weren't just philosophical theorists sitting in their ivory towers. They were practical people who understood human nature at its core. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, taught us that understanding human behavior requires looking beyond the surface. In our modern world of dating apps, mixed signals and emotional confusion, Stoic principles give us a framework to see clearly. They teach us to observe without judgment, to understand without attachment to outcomes, and to recognize patterns that reveal true intentions. In our modern world of dating apps, mixed signals and emotional confusion, Stoic principles give us a framework to see clearly. They teach us to observe without judgment, to understand without attachment to outcomes, and to recognize patterns that reveal true intentions. Today, we're going to explore 8 clear signs that indicate deep emotional attachment. These aren't just behavioral quirks or coincidences. They're psychological patterns that emerge when someone's emotional world has been fundamentally altered by your presence. Let me tell you about David, a 28-year-old software engineer who came to me completely confused about his colleague, Sarah. They'd been working together for 8 months, and he couldn't figure out if her behavior meant she was interested or just being friendly. By the time I walked him through these 8 signs, everything clicked into place. And by the end of this video, you'll have that same clarity. Sign 1. She seeks your philosophical alignment. The first sign of deep emotional attachment is something the Stoics would have immediately recognized. She begins to seek alignment with your worldview and values. This isn't about agreeing with everything you say to please you. It's much deeper than that. Seneca wrote, "Every one of us is searching for someone whose demons play well with ours." When a woman becomes emotionally attached, she unconsciously begins to test whether your fundamental beliefs and values align with hers. But here's the key. She doesn't just want to know what you think. She wants to understand how you think. You'll notice she starts bringing up deeper topics in conversation. Instead of just talking about work or weekend plans, she'll ask about your thoughts on life, your goals, your fears. She might share a book recommendation and then want to discuss it with you. She's not just making conversation, she's mapping your mental landscape. Going back to David and Sarah, he noticed that Sarah started asking him about his thoughts on everything from career ambitions to philosophical questions about success and happiness. She'd send him articles that made her think of their previous conversations. This wasn't small talk. She was building a bridge between their minds. The Stoics understood that true connection happens at the level of virtue and wisdom, not just physical attraction. When someone seeks this deeper alignment with you, they're essentially saying, "I want to understand the world through your eyes, because your perspective matters to me." Pay attention to how she responds when you share your values or beliefs. Does she just nod and change the subject, or does she ask follow-up questions? Does she remember details from previous conversations about your worldview? If she's seeking this philosophical alignment, it's because she's considering how well your minds would work together long-term. This leads us perfectly to our second sign, which is about how she handles the space between you. Sign 2, she creates intentional presence. The second sign is what I call intentional presence. This is when she begins to orchestrate opportunities to be in your orbit, but she does it in a way that appears natural and unforced. Marcus Aurelius taught us that we are drawn to what we value. When someone becomes emotionally attached, they instinctively want to be near the source of that value. But here's what makes this sign so powerful. She doesn't just want to be around you. She wants to be present with you. There's a huge difference between being around someone and being present with them. Being around someone is circumstantial. Being present is intentional. It requires attention, energy, and emotional investment. You'll notice she starts showing up in places where you are, but not in a way that feels forced or obvious. If you mention you're going to a certain coffee shop, she might happen to be there working on her laptop. If you're at a social gathering, she gravitates toward your conversation circle. She finds reasons to extend conversations that could naturally end. But here's the sophisticated part. She also creates new opportunities for presence. She might suggest group activities where she knows you'll be. She remembers details about your schedule and finds ways to align hers. She's not just reacting to your presence, she's actively creating it. With Sarah, David noticed she started taking her lunch breaks at the same time he did, even though she usually ate earlier. She'd linger by his desk when delivering reports that could have been emailed. She suggested team coffee runs and somehow always ended up walking beside him. Each instance seemed casual, but the pattern was clear. Epictetus reminded us that we cannot control external events, but we can control our responses to them. When someone is emotionally attached, they begin to shape their responses to life in ways that include you. They're not just living their life. They're living their life in a way that intersects with yours. Now, it's important to distinguish this from obsessive behavior. Healthy, intentional presence feels natural and mutual. If it feels forced, overwhelming, or one-sided, that's a different issue entirely. We're talking about someone who creates opportunities for connection while respecting boundaries. To test this, notice what happens when you mention your plans or activities. Does she find ways to be part of them or create similar experiences? Does she seem to have a mental map of your schedule? If so, she's not just enjoying your company. She's actively designing opportunities to deepen your connection. Sign 3. She demonstrates emotional investment in your well-being. The third sign moves us into deeper emotional territory. She begins to demonstrate genuine investment in your well-being. This goes far beyond basic politeness or friendship. The Stoics believe that we are naturally drawn to care for what we value. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," but he also understood that when we care deeply about someone, their suffering becomes our suffering, their joy becomes our joy. When a woman becomes emotionally attached, she starts to carry a piece of your emotional state with her. She notices when you're stressed, tired, or upset, often before you've said anything about it. She remembers details about challenges you're facing and follows up on them days or weeks later. She might bring you coffee when she knows you've had a long day. She'll check in on you when you've mentioned an important meeting or difficult situation. She remembers your preferences and tries to make small gestures that show she's thinking about your comfort and happiness. But here's the key indicator. She's developed an emotional radar for your mood. She can tell when something's bothering you, even when you're trying to hide it. She might say things like, "You seem a little off today, everything okay?" This isn't just observation, it's emotional attunement. David told me about a particularly stressful week when he was dealing with a difficult client. He hadn't mentioned it to anyone at work, but Sarah somehow picked up on his stress. She brought him his favorite tea and left a note saying, "Whatever you're dealing with, you've got this." She didn't pry or ask for details. She just offered support. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive can bring none to the bee." When someone becomes emotionally attached, they begin to see your well-being as connected to their own. Your struggles become their concern, not because they're responsible for fixing them, but because they're emotionally invested in your happiness. This investment goes beyond surface-level care. She starts to understand your stressors, your triggers, your sources of joy. She might adjust her own behavior to support your well-being. If she knows you're stressed about a presentation, she might go out of her way to create a calm environment when you're together. Here's something crucial. This care is offered freely, without expectation of reciprocity. She's not keeping score or trying to put you in her debt. The care itself is the reward because your well-being has become important to her. Emotional equilibrium. Think about the last time you were going through something difficult. How did she respond? Did she notice without you having to tell her? Did she offer support in ways that felt natural and helpful? If she's emotionally attached, she's not just responding to your words, she's responding to your emotional state. Sign 4, she exhibits protective instincts. The fourth sign is one that often surprises people. She begins to exhibit protective instincts toward you. This isn't about being possessive or jealous. It's about a deeper, psychological shift where she starts to see your reputation and well-being as something worth defending. The Stoics understood that we naturally protect what we value. Epictetus taught that we should be prepared to defend virtue and what matters most to us. When someone becomes emotionally attached, you become part of what matters most to them. This protection often shows up in subtle ways. She might defend you when you're not around, redirecting gossip or criticism. She'll speak positively about you to others, highlighting your strengths and accomplishments. She becomes an advocate for your character and reputation. In professional settings, this might look like her supporting your ideas in meetings, even when you're not there to defend them yourself. She might redirect credit to you when it's due, or gently correct misconceptions others have about you or your work. In social situations, you might notice she helps steer conversations away from topics that make you uncomfortable, or she'll subtly change the subject if someone is criticizing you. She doesn't do this obviously. It's more like she's created an invisible shield around your reputation. David discovered this when a mutual colleague mentioned that Sarah had corrected someone who was complaining about his communication style. She didn't make a big deal about it, but she pointed out examples of when his communication had been particularly effective. She was protecting his reputation without him even knowing it. But it goes deeper than just reputation. She also protects your emotional space. She might discourage others from bothering you when she knows you're stressed. She creates buffer zones around your energy and attention. Seneca wrote, "The willing destiny guides them. The unwilling destiny drags them." When someone is emotionally attached, they choose to align themselves with your success and well-being. They're not just passive observers of your life. They're active participants in protecting what matters to you. It's important to note that healthy protective instincts respect boundaries. She's not trying to control your relationships or isolate you from others. She's simply creating a positive environment around you and defending your character when it's appropriate to do so. To recognize this sign, pay attention to how others talk about you, when she's around versus when she's not. Do people seem to have more positive things to say about you in her presence? Has she ever mentioned defending you or your ideas to others? These are signs that she's emotionally invested in your reputation and well-being. This protection often creates a reciprocal dynamic. When someone protects you emotionally and socially, you naturally begin to trust them more deeply. This trust then reinforces their emotional attachment, creating a positive cycle of mutual care and protection. Sign 5. She integrates you into her future thinking. The fifth sign is perhaps one of the most revealing. She begins to integrate you into her future thinking. This isn't about making concrete plans together. It's about how she naturally includes you in her mental landscape of what's coming next. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of perspective and looking toward the future with wisdom. When someone becomes emotionally attached, their future perspective shifts to include you as a natural part of their ongoing story. Listen carefully to her language. She starts using phrases like, "We should try that place," or "next time we could," even when you haven't made specific plans. She mentions future events and naturally assumes you'll be part of them, or at least considers how they might affect you. She might mention upcoming events, opportunities, or experiences and gauge your interest in them. She's not necessarily inviting you to everything, but she's mentally placing you in her future scenarios. Her brain has started to default to including you in her forward thinking. In more significant ways, she might start considering how her major life decisions could affect you. If she's thinking about a job change, she might mention how it would impact your ability to stay in touch. If she's planning a move, she considers the distance from you as a factor. David realized this when Sarah started mentioning conferences and workshops that she thought he'd be interested in attending. She wasn't directly inviting him, but she was clearly imagining professional scenarios where they'd continue to intersect and grow together. Epictetus taught us that our thoughts create our reality. When someone is emotionally attached, you become part of their mental reality about the future. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's a psychological shift where their brain starts to process future possibilities with you as a variable. She might ask about your long-term goals, not just out of curiosity, but to understand how they might align with hers. She remembers details about your future plans and brings them up in later conversations. She's building a mental map of how your futures might interweave. You'll notice she thinks seasonally about your connection. She might mention holiday plans, summer activities, or yearly events with an assumption that you'll still be part of her life. When those times come around, her emotional investment has extended beyond the present moment. When making decisions, she starts to consider your perspective or how her choices might affect you. She's not necessarily seeking your approval, but your potential reaction has become part of her decision-making framework. She doesn't just share information, she seeks understanding. She wants you to know not just what happened to her, but how it affected her and why it matters. She's building intimacy through mutual understanding. Often her authenticity creates space for your own vulnerability. She might share something personal and then ask about your experience with similar situations. She's creating a safe space for mutual authenticity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In the context of relationships, the best way to build trust is through authentic vulnerability. When someone risks being real with you, they're essentially saying, "I trust you with the parts of myself that I usually protect." To recognize this sign, pay attention to the quality of her sharing. Is she giving you information to fill silence? Or is she helping you understand who she really is? Does she seem more relaxed and natural around you over time? If she's emotionally attached, you'll notice a gradual dropping of pretenses and an increase in authentic expression. Sign 7. She demonstrates consistent emotional availability. The 7th sign is about emotional consistency. She demonstrates reliable, emotional availability for you. This isn't just about being physically present. It's about showing up emotionally in a consistent, dependable way. Epictetus taught that we should focus on what we can control. When someone is emotionally attached, they choose to consistently control their emotional availability for you. This is a conscious commitment, not just a feeling. She responds to your emotional needs in a timely and appropriate way. If you're excited about something, she shares in that excitement. If you're facing a challenge, she offers support. She doesn't just react to your emotions, she creates space for them. Her energy level with you remains relatively stable. She doesn't blow hot and cold, being super engaged one day and distant the next. You can count on her to be emotionally present when you interact. She shows through her actions that your emotional needs are a priority. She might pause other activities to have a meaningful conversation with you, or she'll remember to follow up on something important you shared with her. David realized that Sarah had become his emotional constant at work. Whether he was having a great day or a terrible one, she was consistently available to share in those experiences with appropriate emotional energy. The Stoics believed in the power of commitment to virtue. Emotional availability is a form of virtue. It's choosing to be present for someone else's experience. When someone maintains this consistently, they're demonstrating deep care. Sign 8, she seeks deeper meaning in your connection. The 8th and final sign is the most profound. She seeks deeper meaning in your connection. She's not content with surface-level interaction. She wants to understand the significance of what you share together. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." When someone is emotionally attached, they begin to see your connection as one of those essential elements of a meaningful life. She brings up conversations about the nature of your relationship, not to pressure you into definitions, but to understand what makes your connection unique. She might ask about how you see your friendship or partnership developing. She looks for patterns and significance in your shared experiences. She might mention how a particular conversation changed her perspective, or how knowing you has influenced her growth. She's actively making meaning from your connection. The moment David knew Sarah was emotionally attached was when she told him that their conversations had helped her think differently about her career goals. She wasn't just enjoying their time together, she was seeing it as transformative. Seneca wrote, "The mind that is anxious about future misfortunes is miserable." When someone seeks deeper meaning in your connection, they're not anxious about the future. They're invested in creating a meaningful present and future together. Conclusion and call to action. So there you have it, 8 clear signs that someone is emotionally attached to you, viewed through the lens of Stoic wisdom. Remember, these signs work together to create a pattern of behavior that reveals deep emotional investment. The Stoics taught us that understanding human nature gives us the power to respond wisely to life situations. Now that you understand these signs, you can move forward with clarity and wisdom. If this video helped you gain clarity about someone in your life, let me know in the comments. And if you want more content about relationships and Stoic wisdom, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Until next time, remember, clarity is the first step to wisdom. Check out this video next about Stoic principles for healthy relationships, and I'll see you in the next one.